Okay, so I'm going to start whipping this rod up now. It's all together. So the real fittings are on there. Top piece of cork, which I showed on when I previous video. I glued this on. This was the trim ring. I glued this on just using a little piece of little tiny piece of epoxy 5-minute glue. I sort of thought, should I use super glue, which probably would have been okay. Decided to use epoxy just in case I ever wanted to take it off, knowing that heat would always release it. I started to fill the handle. Reason was just because I was filling another handle, which is for a different video, and to finish off a rod for a friend. And while I sort of had the cork dust and some super glue out, I just started to fill it up. So obviously needs to be sanded, probably a little bit more that needs to be done, but just been doing that. And then in preparation for the whipping, now obviously I need to do the hook keeper, which will go on just here. I've also been long rod, small room. I've also cleaned up the places where the rings, the eyes guides are going to go. And originally there would have been some there was some residue from where the old rings came off, and I needed to clean that up because the butt ring, the closest ring, is going to be it's bigger. It's quite a lot bigger. So sort of 1 foot will go here. I don't know if I can grab it actually. There we go, I can. So doesn't matter which way around it goes right now, but one ring, 1 foot will go here. The other foot's going to go quite a further way up the blank. So I wanted to so here will be whipped, so that's okay. But this piece now is going to be to the outside, yeah. So it's going to be exposed. That's the word I was looking for. So I wanted to make sure I just got all of the remnants of the old rings off. So I literally scraped, and then I used various grades of wet and dry paper, just to make sure that there was no remnants. Right now it's a little bit cloudy, so I've taken the shine off it. That's okay, because I'm going to refinish this, not entirely, but I'm going to touch up the non-shiny pieces. Done the same, exactly the same with the other places where the guides originally were, so they've all been cleaned up. This is maybe this will show up on camera, not being done, has been done, yeah, or not being done as effectively, I think is a better way of saying it. Now apart from the butt guide, all the other guides I'm going to put on here, they're actually single-legged. Yeah, they're these K Series Fujis. So I can whip where the existing were for 1 foot because they're only single-legged, but then the other, there's not going to be anything. So just needed to tidy all of that up. I'm okay with that. Another interesting discovery with this Drennan rod, which kind of confused me a little bit, is underneath the decals, the branding, this section here, so from where the original handle was, and this was whipped up to here, I think, or was it just the original handle? I can't remember now. There's this tiny step, and I just didn't really think too much about it, but actually this section has got some kind of clear coat on it. Don't know whether it's I can't make up my mind what it is. I think it's some kind of maybe what I sometimes do with the wipe on wipe off finishes, just to give it a coat. But I sort of discovered it when I was cleaning up around the where the butt ring was, and I was scraping away, and what I couldn't figure out where the epoxy that finished off the whippings on the original guides, the original rings, where they sort of ended and where something on the rod began. So I was sort of picking away, and I realised that I was going to end up tearing all the way down into this if I wasn't careful. So I've stopped. It's visible, but it's going to end up being hidden by the whipping, I think, from the ring that's going to go on here, so I'm not too fussed about it. What I did do is I spent a bit of time actually rubbing this down with some really fine grit wet and dry, and the reason why I did that was just so that there's not a real step, so that when I'm whipping up, and I don't want to kind of have to navigate, you know, too much of a bumpy surface. So I think I'm okay there. So yeah, so I'm going to make a start now. All I'm going to do today is I'm going to do this section here and whip the hook keeper on. I think I mentioned previously that I'm going to sort of do something a little bit differently, rather than putting the hook keeper at the bottom. So rather than it going here, I'm actually going to put it sort of here, I think, because that's left-handed fisherman. This is with my right-handed fisherman. With my left hand, this is where I will be hooking up. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make a start. I'm not going to film my my whipping. I don't think I need to, because there are people that are just so much better at it than I have, and I have recorded some parts of my whipping exploits previously. But just to sort of talk through a little bit about what I've got to do this. So I've got some thread, so I've got some black and I've got some purple. I'm not sure how this purple is going to work on this dark coloured blank, but I'm going to have a little bit of a play around, a little bit of an experiment. I've obviously got the hook keeper. I always use one of these. These are like a fly tying bobbin, right? So the sort of the bobbin for what they call it, reel or whatever, for the whipping thread kind of sits on that, goes through here, and it actually hangs down and puts a bit of tension, and I find that really works well for me, because I'm whipping really by hand. I don't even have a whipping station. I've started to collect some of the bits and pieces to make one. I also want the weather to be a bit better before I go outside and start using some power tools. But right now I'm just doing it completely by hand with my trusty, I'm not sure if these are finishing up, my trusty holders, which I knocked up out of a bit of plywood and realised they're probably too high and this and that. But for Mark 1s, they do the job, and I've got by fine. I've got some braid. This is probably 50-60 pound braid or something. I think I bought this for piking and never used it, but I use this for whipping, for kind of pulling threads through. I always use braid rather than just a length of the whipping thread, because I find it's really, really strong. I've had the thread snap on me a couple of times. Trusty razor blades. Got some masking tape, which actually I've got a strip. This is what I caught my elbow on a little bit earlier when I was looking at it. I cut it into strips here, and I just use the thin strips when I've got to stick things down. And finally, I've got some scissors. I actually got these. These are surgeon's scissors, and they're sort of spring-loaded, right? So they're really useful for using with one hand. Curved. Fang curves are just so much easier when it comes to trying to get a really tight, close cut. So kind of a new acquisition. I got these off eBay for like a couple of quid. Obviously been used, probably been inside somebody, I don't know, but they're clean, and that's what I'm using. So yeah, I'll whip this piece up, and then I'll probably cut back in and just talk about how that went, and then how I'm going to work my way up the rod.